Hi everybody, my name is Paul and I'm a designer that loves to code. And today what I'm going to be showing you is a pretty little picture that's been done in Photoshop that I designed for an app called Kale that I'm building. It's something that I'm working on to help people stay motivated on their diets, to help them keep track of what they eat so they can start eating healthier foods. And I've had a few requests from people who are getting into web development, and they wanted to know, or they wanted to kind of watch me code. I guess the reason for that is because they were watching me build some stuff, and they're like, "Holy crap, that's fast, that's cool. I want to see what you do because from watching you for 30 seconds, I feel like I've learned so much." So here I am, and I wanted to share with you guys this page that I'm building. And just kind of off the whim, I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't even know how long this thing's going to run for. Hopefully, it won't. I won't run out of space on my hard drive. I've got a tiny 128 gigabyte solid state drive on my MacBook Air, and I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So this is me on Twitter. What we're working on today, like I said, is an app called Kale. So if you head over here to getkale.com, you'll kind of see I'm logged in. But if we go to the landing page, this is it, and it's an iOS app. Helps you track stuff, food that you eat. And today I have a pretty little mock-up. Let me show you that real quick in Photoshop. I've got this thing here. As you can see, it's all pixel perfect. It's aligned. This is a profile page for a user on the service. And it's going to have some basic stuff such as how many meals you've shared, what your current goals are, ways to contact you, and we're going to code up basically a stream of your food. If you take a look at the site right now, whoops, you'll see that this is what I have. And it's funny because this is live right now. If you go on Get Kale and you just kind of click on a person's avatar, you will see this. So it's a little bit embarrassing. I've been meaning to take care of it, but you know, this is a side project and it's got its own time. So really quickly, I wanted to walk through the design with you, and I wanted to show you that what started with a rough sketch like this. I've got a moleskin dedicated just to Kale, where I sketch all the things that I want to work on. You can see that this is my idea for the profile. Scrolling a little more, you see that I've got kind of the nav bar, maybe a user avatar, some details, some other information, and here's kind of the meal feed where we're going to be able to select the different kind of ways that we want to view it, maybe some graphs in the future, who knows. I've got a lot of really awesome stuff planned for it. But from there, really, I took it to Photoshop and kind of fleshed it out a little bit and kind of started with this thing. And as I went through, you can kind of see, made some small adjustments there, added that, made a couple more adjustments, added the meals. And from this screen here, I kind of moved the user avatar to the left, organized, made it a little more clear, and kind of ended up with this screen here. A lot of reasons why I did the things I did, but I'm not going to jump into that now because not really focusing on the design. What we're focusing on is the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move back to the page. This is what we have, and introduce you to the code. So here we are using Sublime Text 2 as my editor. Of course, terminal here where I'm running Git to make sure that things are in order. As you can see, I've already made a couple of changes to the style sheet and to the actual show page here for the users. So this is the page that's going to be shown when you get to someone's page. Using Ruby on Rails, working with that for about 2 years now. And it's just really fun, fast, and easy. So I've got these two tabs open. One is the style sheet. So here's the CSS. And I've been doing apps for quite a while, and there's a way that you organize things, and I've got my own way. So you can see that I've already organized a bunch of the styles, and I made a little place here for all the profile page items that we're going to be adding today. And then of course here's the HTML. Let's ignore this part down here in the bottom. That's for my analytics tracking. But if we take a look here, you can see a little bit of Ruby that sets the title to person, and we'll change that later. We've got the profile user wrap inner page, some profile details, then we got the user highlight, some user stats, and then here's kind of the follow unfollow button to kind of give you that following capacity like Twitter. And here's what it looks like. So right clicking, inspecting element, super useful tool for web development. You can see all the things we just talked about. So here's the profile user wrap, here's the profile details, the profile user highlight, the image, all the information, the profile stats, whatever. And here's the follow and follow stuff. So we're going to turn this into this. It's going to be awesome. Again, no idea how long this is going to take. We're only 6 minutes into this film, but let us begin. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is kind of round out this, and let me move this actually to a new window here so we have 3 spaces to play with. I like to use my desktops a lot. So first thing, let's build kind of a container around the entire thing, the entire page. So that's going to hold everything, and then maybe we'll build this little piece over here, this brown piece, which will hold the image, it'll hold the name, the stats, and we'll position all that inside of that block. And then we'll kind of build this block here where we'll put in some fill-in information, since I don't even think my app asks you for this stuff yet. And then we'll build this stuff down here, and then we'll drop in the meal images later. So let's get to work. So this HTML stuff, I've already worked on it just a little bit. Basically, what you want to do is exactly how I just explained. We took a look at the mockup and thinking about it in terms of squares. How would you actually do this stuff? Where we've got this little thing here. Come on, show up. We've got one block here. We've got one block over here. And then this is a block over here. How do you chunk it up so that we can display it in HTML? And at the same time, you've got to be thinking, what makes sense semantically? Whoops, somehow I deleted a couple things. That's what I did. Meaning, so semantically, how do we group these things in a way that makes sense? So as I was going through, I was thinking, this is the user information, like the basic stuff that you're going to want to know. This is kind of extra information. These are the controls for the page, and this is the bulk of the content, which is the actual photos of the meals. And there's the little interactions that can happen here. So that's part of the design phase, but really when you're doing the front-end development as well, you have a design phase too. You got to figure out how you're going to be putting all this stuff together. So as we can see, there's a little bit of that here. So let's jump straight into the CSS and make this happen. So the first thing I want to touch is probably this profile user wrap item. So let's give that a background. I don't even know what color I used over here. FC. Let's give it a border. Let's take a quick refresh, take a look at it. Oh, come on. It's taking forever. Okay, cool. So I also work a lot in the inspect element to kind of get things how I want them. So I take a look here, and the user wrap, just because this bothers me, I'm going to take a look, put that margin in there. Color looks fine, border looks fine. So the next thing I want to do is kind of this is this top bar. So this whole section here. Let me get that square out again so you guys can see what I'm referencing. So this piece here, we're going to build that part right now. As you can see, there's a light border on the bottom, so let's add a little border down there. Okay, that looks great. I'm gonna actually put that in the styles. Oh, where were we? Here we go. And what was that called? That was profile details. Here's the class right there. All right. Next thing we want to work on is kind of this profile user highlight, which again is going to be this section right here. This whole thing. So we've got an image in there, we've got some placeholder content for now, we'll adjust all that stuff. But let's go ahead and start working on the styles in here. Background, just give it a yellow background. Alright, it's already a block, so let's give it a width. And since I'm building this thing adaptively, it's not fully responsive. Adaptive means that I'm putting in different breakpoints and the design's going to change. It's going to use different styling based on the size of the screen. Since I'm building it adaptively, I'm using some fixed pixels for some of these things. So let me take a look at where I forgot what this thing was called. Was it, yeah, personal stats. So this thing is 180 pixels wide, so let's go ahead and put that in here. From the left, I'm not sure how many pixels that is, but let me put in a relative thing. 1 EM. That looks about right. We can tweak all that later. So that looks good. Let's get the actual background color here. Okay. Now notice how it is positioned about the same distance, about 1 EM, above the page. So we can accomplish that by giving a position relative and giving it a negative top. 1 EM, that's too little. Let's give it 2 EM. As you can see though, it's kind of brushing up along the top here, the navigation. I don't really like that. There's way more space there. So what I'm going to do is in this actual profile user, I'm going to give that a margin top of, let's say 6 EM. We might have to adjust that later. So let me pop that in here. Profile user. Let me go back to this thing here, grab all these styles, and that is profile-user-highlight. Let's see if I can spell today. Oh, come on. My computer's starting to lag. We're only 13 minutes into this. Stupid MacBook Air. I need to get one of those Retina things. So I go back here, refresh the page. It should be serving the new styles, and it didn't. So let me make sure I save that. Let me refresh that. Oh, what's going on here? So things don't go right all the time as expected. So looking here, the margin top 6 EM is working, but the profile details, that's good. How about the profile user highlight? Okay, so maybe I misspelled something. So I'm going to copy the class directly from this area. Profile, yeah, of course, I misspelled it. All right, now we refresh the page. Now we should be good to go. Man, that refresh is taking forever. I don't know why. It's usually much quicker than that. So let's put in a little border. Let's give it a rounded corners, that kind of stuff. I like to, so everyone has a different way that they design stuff or that they build stuff. And if I already have the full picture like I do here in this mockup, I'm going to start with the top left and kind of make my way down from left to right, top to bottom. Because for me, that gives me it gives me a style sheet that I'm comfortable with. So the CSS here, it's going to be from top left to bottom right as I go down the page. Also, it kind of keeps me focused, so I know that I've accomplished this piece right here. And what's cool is when I get to some other pieces down the road, like when I get to this stuff here, I might have to change the way that I did things before, and that's no problem. So as I'm building them, I kind of go back and check and then keep going, go back and check and keep going. So it's definitely an iterative process that can take some time. But everyone's got their own style. Some people like to kind of wireframe everything out and then flesh out the details. Some people like to start from the bottom. I don't know. It's just my way, so I'm sharing with you the way that I'm doing things. So once again, let me add that border, do the rounded corners. I'm not even going to do it in there since I know that we can go straight here. So another thing that I wanted to mention is that yes, I'm using Sass, and it does have quite a bit of mix-ins that I can do right now. I've only defined the gradient. Typically, I use this thing called Compass. It's an open source library for Sass, and it's got all sorts of really useful utility functions. Lots of mix-ins that come with it. It's even got some frameworks. I use that on most of my projects, but I'm rolling everything from scratch here, just because I feel like it. No real good reason. So cool, we got that. Let me do the user avatar now. Let me center that. So let's work here in the inspector. So let's see, this thing's got no styles applied to it. If I make it a block and oops, margin 0 auto, that should put it in there. And again, this one is going to be shooting out from the top. That looks about right. 2EM, 2EM. You see how I did this and I made this 2EMs and this is 2EMs and this side over here is still 1EM. As I'm progressing, I find that I don't feel that's right. It doesn't. There's the symmetry that's getting lost. So I'm actually going to go back to kind of this thing in general where I did this. I'm going to make it 2. And that helps me restore balance. So even as I'm working through this, I'm looking at the design, I'm looking at how it actually feels, and then I'm making small adjustments like that on the fly. Let me go all the way down. So it's really cool because you get to see your design kind of come to life. Now what kind of sucks about it is you see this pretty picture. By the time we're done with it, it's not going to look exactly like it. And I don't think I've ever worked on a project where I might do a mock-up, a comp in Photoshop, and the browser looks exactly the same. There's always little quirks. And since I'm doing this in Chrome, who knows what it'll look like in Internet Explorer. Actually, hold on one second. Someone's at the door. I'll be right back.
¿Te desperté o estaba dormido?
No, yo estoy en un meeting ahora. En el teléfono. Estoy en un meeting.
Oh, vengo otro día.
Ok.
Vengo otro día.
Gracias.
Hasta ahorita me quedo.
All right, folks. Sorry about that. Maintenance guy at the door. I'll make sure that I edit that and break it down to about 2 seconds. So coming back here, we were talking about pixel perfection and how all the browsers kind of look differently. So like I was saying, we're adjusting on the fly. Anyways, we apply these styles to the image here. You'll see that I've got this class profile image, and looking here on the side, I don't see profile image listed anywhere. So typically I might mock these out. I might give it a class because I know I'm going to use it. But most of the times I kind of go through and add the classes as I'm building it as I need them. But anyways, we've got this profile image, so let me go in here. And because I swear I've used this before, I'm going to go ahead and search. And I'll bring this up here. You see that it's not finding any other profile images in this file. And I tend to keep everything in one file. I don't know. I just feel like it's easier for me to navigate everything in one place. So anyways, I didn't find that profile image anywhere, so who knows, whatever. Let's get back to where we are. We put this stuff in there. Let's refresh the page. Should be good to go there. So what's next? Take a look here. let's give it a little border around the corners just a little bit. So go in here, border 1 pixel solid, and you'll notice that I'm using this RGBA stuff quite often. Here, here, here. That's because it's just really quick for me to type and get a feel for it, and it doesn't work like, I don't think it works in IE, to be honest. But what I do is later when I do the browser testing, I kind of go in here and I replace all these with the colors that I want them to show. But for doing the development, to getting everything out of the way, this is just really quick and helps me kind of focus on building the things that I want to build. I forgot to put the border radius. I put 3 pixels there because the image is a little bit smaller than the rest of the things. There's also this inner shadow there, so I'm going to do a box shadow. Inset 0, 0, let's do 2 pixels. And this again is kind of a white. I don't know exactly what it should be, but I'll take a look here in the inspector and we'll kind of narrow it down. Make sure it looks good. So what if I make this 0.9, 0.5, 0.9? I'm not really seeing it. Not really seeing it. Let's make this 5. 1. Not seeing it. Okay, so no problem. What I would do in this case normally is I'd start looking around and be like, well, why the hell can't I add this box shadow to the image? I don't know off the top of my head, so we just won't care about it right now, and we'll go back and that will be part of the polish later down the road. For the most part though, that looks good, so let's move on to this guy here. So this thing, let's center the text. Let's give it a maybe a size of 18 or whatever. Let's see. Let's come back here, take a look. What is this? H2 class, profile, user, username. I think 1em roughly translates, since I'm using font size large, roughly translates to about 18 pixels. And let's get this color here. And let's make it centered. So then let's, next thing we're going to do is take a look at the spacing. So it's about equal spacing from here to there. So it still looks a bit large to me. Also, this thing was, we're using Proxima Nova for the font, semi-bold. So let's change the font weight on that as well. Oh, okay. So here earlier, we've got some styles, inner page, H2. That's just kind of across the board, something that I've applied to any inner page. I did that earlier. And this happens a lot in CSS where you're writing on something and you're making something new and something that's older affects it. Well, here in the inspector, anything that is the more prominent styles, the one that will be applied, are at the top. So if I put something in here at the very top, it will be applied on top of anything else. So if I change the font size up here to 18 pixels, you see it gets applied, this thing gets crossed out. If I turn that off, this thing comes on, I turn that off, it goes down. Cascading style sheets. So I can see that this thing, because the specificity, I specified that it is inner page H2. So there's two little tags it's looking for. It's looking for the class and for an element, and this one's just looking for a class. This supersedes it, even though this was written on line 123 and this one was written on line 998. So what I could do, I got to go back here and refactor a couple things, but in the meantime, just to get things done, I'm going to go ahead and just add an H2. So H2 dot profile user, any H2 that has a profile user username tag will have that style applied. So I hate doing this because I'm making it more specific, basically what I think a style sheet should look like is just a bunch of classes that are kind of all thrown around. Um, I don't think that you should have very specific things because that limits you. It means that you haven't architected your style sheets that well. And frankly, I kind of suck at front end development. So this stuff, I just kind of hack it together and make it work. But anyways, looking here, this 1EM looks a little too small to be 18 pixels. 1.3, 1.4, 5, 6. Let's see what kind of looks right. So just kind of eyeballing it. I think that 1.2 is probably going to work. No, sorry, 1.4. And then let me do the font weight. 500? Yeah, 500 is what I want. So that's the semi-bold. And this thing needs to be a little bigger now. Let's make it 1.6. 1.5. Let's go 1.5. 500, 1.5. Font weight, 500. Font size, 1.5 EM. So now here's another thing I just thought of. When you're writing out the styles that you want to apply, the what are these things called? Attributes, selectors? I don't remember. No, these things are selectors. These are the styles. Different people organize them in different ways. I kind of have a thing where any of my layout things I put up top, and then any of my content things I kind of put in the middle. Anything dealing with the fonts, with the colors, I go towards the end. Some people alphabetize the insides of these things. Everyone's got a different way to do it. Smacks. I'm looking for, there we go, Scalable Modular Architecture for CSS. So this guy, he wrote a pretty great book on the framework that he uses that works really, really, really well. I read this a while ago, and it really helped me kind of solidify a few of the ways that I built CSS. So I'd highly recommend taking a look at Smacks and reading it to learn how you should organize your CSS. That said, if it works well for you and works well for your teammates, then build it how you want to build it, man. So we're good with the name here. That spacing is a little too far here, as you can see. So let's go check this out. So looking at just highlighting it, I can see that there's some orange underneath. I can't really, darn it. There's some orange underneath, and that is the margin. You can see this bottom one margin. Now there's no orange. Now there's orange. Now there's no orange. Margins are orange, and paddings are yellow in the inspector. So you can see the yellow, the blue, then the orange. So as you can see, there's no margin top. So let me take a look at the image. I don't really see anything going on there. So once again, not too sure if I don't fully understand what's going on here. So I'm just going to hack it. And I'm going to give this, again, another relative position. Top, not so much. Yeah, that works. And of course, this is going to affect what happens down here. And once I get to kind of this portion down here, I might be like, I shot myself in the foot by doing that stuff up there. So as of right now, I don't think that's going to happen. So I'll go ahead and put that stuff in there. And when we get to that point, well, we can decide. So another thing I want to show is when you're working on this kind of stuff, you always kind of have the perfect name fit in here. But what if my name is Abdul Majid Al-Faiz? Kind of a long name. That kind of fits in there. Prince of Saudi Arabia. And this guy is actually my friend. I had a roommate in college, Abdul Majid Al-Faiz. So if he's watching this video, hey man, what's going on? So that looks pretty good. It's wrapping. It's just pushing the stuff down. Nothing's kind of leaving the container, so that's awesome. This might affect us later down the road when we've got this stuff all in here and we've got this stuff here. So we'll take a look at that once we get there. But for now, let's keep building this thing. It looks good. So next thing, the meal shared. So we've got 5 meals shared here. You can see that I've got a little bit of Ruby here where I'm pulling this meals object and I'm counting how many that the user has. Let's call this profile user meal count, and let's give it Now, I'm pretty verbose when it comes to my classes. I like to really let someone know where this thing's going. Of course, if I see that these styles are going to be applied elsewhere, for example, I don't know, let's take a look here, like a button or something like that. I'm not going to say, blue, gray button. I'm as specific as I need to be, but I rather be on the side of more specific because when it comes to reading code, whether someone else is reading my code or whether I'm reading my own code, I rather know what's going on. So I like to write more, and it doesn't really cost much. It'll be a couple bytes more for the browser to download. So looking on here, profile user meal count, let's just give it kind of a base style so we can play with it in the inspector. So looking at it here, profile user meal count. Let's go ahead and text align center. What we could do is this bold here, we could give it a display block, and that would put it on its own line. That's probably the best thing to do since this is a style. It's a presentation issue. The other thing I could do is in the HTML, I could actually put a line break in here like that. But once again, I want to keep, this is a presentation issue. This belongs in the CSS. So I'm probably just going to give that bold. Profile user meal count, bold. I'm going to give that a display block. I'm going to give that a font weight of bold. I'm going to give it a font size, maybe 4 EMs. That might be too big. We're going for kind of this size here. This thing, let's do text align center. Oh, and here's another thing. So even though we put this filler in here, 1 EM, when I go to do this 4 EMs, because this bold is inside of that meal container count, it's going to multiply it by 4, whatever's in here. So if I move this to 2, then because this is relative heights, this is actually going to be an 8. So I have to keep that in mind kind of when I'm building this and base it off what this meals shared is going to be in the end. So we'll see. That looks about right. I mean, that font size maybe a little smaller. So if I make this 0.75 EM, and the 5 is way too big. So maybe that should help with that. Let's take a look. Let's refresh the page again. And of course, at this point, we can actually work in the inspector, take a look at the sizes, make sure everything lines up well. So let's go here. Oh, again, we got this inner page P going on here. So let me put a specific in there. I have to go back and change these things one day so that they don't bother me all the time. 0.75, way too small. Maybe 1 EM. That's about right, I think. That's about right, I think. Let me transform that, make it uppercase. Yeah, that's about right. We'll keep it at that. Whereas this thing, still a bit too big. Let's try 3 EMs. That's better. I like that. So as you can see, there's also much less space in between the 203, the 5 here, and the meal shared. So taking a look at that, because we did it this way, it's really the line height of this guy. Which if I set it to 1, we should be good there. Yeah, so line height 1. Over here, we made this guy 3. What else did we change? Let's see, we gave this a 1 EM. So if you're moving back and forth between inspector and actual code, I would not recommend doing what I did here, which is I went in and changed the 0.75 to a 1 EM. I would add them all on element style, because that way you know what you added. So I can come back here and instead of having to guess and remember like what style did I add, what style did I not add, I just copy what's up there at the top, and I know that's going to be fine. So refreshing the page again, and this is getting a pretty ridiculous. I don't know why it's taking so long to reload. Typically, like in a split second, the page reloads, so it makes this a lot faster. Actually, this thing's bothering me, this big space here. It shouldn't be that big, so let me get rid of the margin bottom for this guy. Oh, what did I just tell you? Do it in element style. 0. There we go, much better. Yeah, so now the spacing between the image and the H2 matches between H2 and the number 5. So let me add that to the profile user username right down here. Cool. Sweet, looking good. Let's get the color here. Alright, we got that color. I'm pretty sure that this is also the same color. Yeah, it's the same color. So we just apply that color to the paragraph right here. And it might be time to refactor, almost. Because we're getting to these little pieces here, and they're using the same color, and I went ahead and put it on here, so we'll see. We'll get there in a second. Cool, so that's looking good. So next thing we want to add, let's add this little line down here that breaks those two together. So bottom, 1 pix solid, 2, cool. So we can see orange, again, orange is margin. So let's set that to 0. Instead, let's do the padding bottom, 1 EM. And this border, you can kind of see that thickness there. There's nothing underneath it giving it padding, so it's going to look a little off for now. Let's go ahead and put that in here. Cool. And then we've got this div, the profile user stats, which right now is empty. There's nothing in there. And that is where we're going to hold the followers and the following. So let me remember, I think it is user dot number of followers. Maybe, maybe not. Let me remember. Let's see if that works. It might give me an error. Yeah, so there's no number of followers. So what I'm going to do, undefined method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to user, and I'm going to see following, da 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 da. Nope, didn't put it in there. User helper, maybe? Helper? Nope. Maybe I put it in the user controller. Nope, didn't put it in there. Let's take a look here. Followed users. And we want the count. We don't actually want a list. Okay, so yeah, so that's one of them. So that is the followed users. And what's the other one? The other one we've got is followers. User dot followers? Maybe. I don't remember what I did. Yeah, that seems to work. Cool. So we're going to put these into their own separate things. How do we organize it here? Followers and following. So let me move that up here. Class equals profile user stats followers. Followers following. Yeah, that should be right. I might have flipped those numbers, but I should have used a different name, like user.leader count or something. I don't know. Um, anyways, let's go back here. Let's take a look. Quick time check. We're at 40 minutes. I don't know how big this thing is getting, so let me take a real quick look to see. Movies, screening. Let's see how big this thing is. Oh my gosh, 333 megabytes. Awesome. Okay, that's not too bad. I've got another 40 gigs on this hard drive, so I'm sure we can make something work. Anyways, going back, we're trying to get these things to work. So what I'm going to do is give them a width of 50%. Also, I'm going to float them left. And there's a bunch of ways to do this. The reason I choose float left, and you can see they're kind of floating out of the space, is because I've tried doing the display inline block, and that doesn't work too well in IE7. You got to have a hack, and if I'm going to use a hack, I might as well work with floating. I could work with positioning and position them relatively or absolutely within a parent container. That would require me possibly setting a fixed height. So really for the time being, I prefer to float them and do clear fix. Again, like I said, I am not a professional. I mean, I am a professional front-end developer. I do it, but it's not like my passion. I don't fight over these things. If it gets the job done, it looks right in the browsers, then I'm fine. I don't worry too much about like performance or if it looks great in Opera 7. I make sure it looks great in all the browsers that I'm working it in and the browsers that my users are reported in. So I'm going to go with float, and I'm going to use this clear fix, the same one that Twitter Bootstrap uses. I think no, it's not in here. It's probably in app.css. Clear fix. Yeah, I mean, I said I didn't use display inline block because it was a little hacky, but this is basically almost the same fix that they use for inline block. But whatever, it's one or the other. I don't think it matters. And if it does, if you're watching this and you know the difference and you can explain it to me, please do. I would love to learn about it. So that said, you can see we're kind of getting our way there. Let me go ahead and put in the text that we need. So we're doing followers and following. Followers, following. We're going to use the same little trick here, and we're going to wrap this kind of with a bold tag. Whoops. So we can display it as a block, but keep everything centered. Refresh the page. Cool. Got that going. Oh, you know what? So this happens all the time when you're kind of designing / developing in the inspector. Is I applied the width styles 50%. I floated them, and I just refreshed the page, and I forgot to actually put them in the styles here. So I lost it. Sometimes I might have just spent like 5 minutes here in the inspector and did all sorts of styles, and I'll be really pissed because I've been modifying a lot of stuff. Sometimes I lose something small like this. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is make sure that you transfer your inspector styles over. There are, I'm trying to remember the name, but there are a few browser plugins that allow you to, straight from here, from the inspector, to save, and it actually updates the file for you. I don't know specifically how that worked. I haven't used it, so won't comment on it, but it does exist. That might be something that you're interested in if you really enjoy using the inspector all the time. So anyways, that said, let me go back to this thing, and since they're both going to utilize, actually let me do this the hard way first so I can show you a little bit of refactoring, some quick and dirty stuff. With 50%, float left. The other thing I'm going to have to do is add the clear fix class there. Same thing here. Yes, all you intermediate developers are going to be laughing at me right now. I'm trying to prove a point. So this works. Maybe not, because I think the paragraphs might be too long and it might push each other down. Oh, no, it worked. But again, you've got this redundant stuff where the same code is being used in 2 different places. So instead, we're going to create one profile. You know what? Let's just call this user stats. Detail. Followers. Whatever. Put it in there. Get rid of it from here. No. User stat module. Yeah, I love using the word module. It makes no sense at all. So I use it all the time. And we'll apply it to both of these guys. User stat module. So now they both get the same style. We are not repeating our code. And we're good to go. Cool. So next thing, let's make this display block. Let's text align center. Oops. Spelled it the British way. Cool, that works. So this again is going to apply to the module, not just the individual ones. This thing here where we make the bold, I'm going to use a little bit of CSS here. CSS, a little bit of Sass. So Sass allows nested things. So you see how I did this thing up here? Well, to make that a little less verbose, instead of having kind of a whole new selector here, if I just put this inside of these brackets here, it knows that I'm saying P profile user meal count B. Okay, and it'll apply it there. So I'm doing the same thing here. So now both of these should be centered and have that little bold thing going on. Cool, sweet, solid. I want a little bit of spacing, and I want to, let's see, what do I need? The color is going to stay the same. Right now it's black. I need the same color as these guys. So the color is going to stay the same. I'm going to make that bold, text transform uppercase, a couple other things. Make these a bit smaller. So let me, in general, font size, 1EM. I think it's already 1EM, but I'm not sure. We'll check when we inspect it. Font weight, bold, and then the color. So we could, since we're using the same color here and here, we could refactor the color out and put it on a higher level. In fact, we could apply it to this whole module and then just change, this guy here. That would make the most sense. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Take the color out of both of those. I'm going to apply it to the user highlight block. And since this username, we're already giving it a specific color, it should just work and apply to everywhere. Just go through. Sweet. So they've got the colors they need. They're still a bit too big. I didn't do the text transform uppercase, so let's go ahead and do that. Uppercase. 1EM is too big. Let's do 8EM. Let's see what that looks like. Quick reference check over here. Ooh, I got a text message. Oh my goodness, another one. I'm now distracted on my iPhone. Okay, sweet. So coming back here, what happened? I don't remember. Oh yes, okay. So this inner page P is still getting in the way. So let's get rid of the margin bottom. Actually, for here, let's apply that to a P. This is really getting frustrating, putting all these P's everywhere. I don't like it. But since I don't feel like going back and seeing where I use this all the time, I'm going to go ahead and just go with it. And yes, it is piling more stuff for me to do later, but I'll live with that. I can live with that. It's no biggie. Okay, cool. So we're good. Actually, looking back here at this guy, I see that these lines look a little too thick. And when they look a little too thick, it's because I accidentally applied two borders. You see how this one's thin? These are thick. Well, looking here at the styles, I meant to apply border bottom, but I applied border. So that applied it everywhere. Border and bottom, they're now nice and thin. So let me go back to profile details up here, and apply this border bottom. Cool. Sorry if that's been pissing you off the whole time and I just caught it. One other thing is I don't like how the footer is so closely attached. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now by adding a margin bottom to this guy here. So as you saw, I literally just bounced back to like the very first things that we applied, and I just tweaked a couple things as I was going. So that's cool. That's nice. So looking here, I see there's a couple extra things. So for example, there's this very thin 1 pixel white, which makes it feel like it's kind of inside impressed. I also have kind of this box shadow around this guy here, which makes it feel like it's coming off the page. So we'll put those in later. That's all kind of part of polish. But looking at this, it's looking much better. This thing's still a bit too small. I still haven't applied the text transform. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, I did apply text transform. Why didn't it work? Did I apply it to the right guy? Text transform uppercase. Oh, looks good. Profile meal user count. Oh, whoops. Did I apply it? Yeah, I applied it to the wrong guy. Crap. I applied this to the wrong guy too. Go back a couple guys. Still one. Get rid of that. Okay, so let's go back up here. I just undid this margin bottom 3em. I also undid this border bottom. Cool, no problem. Should have caught that earlier. So I was actually here, and this is where I'm going to make that 0.8, and this is where I'm going to add the text transform uppercase. Oh, way too big. What did I do there? Ah, F you. Let's apply the P style. That should fix this stuff. I gotta zero out this margin bottom. So another thing is we are using interpage P, and technically these guys aren't really paragraphs. So semantically, I have to think to myself, is there a better tag that would do what I need it to do? You know, is this a span? Is is this taking a look at the HTML5 elements? Is this an aside? Is it just a timestamp, a date? Is it, what is it? And since I don't know, off the top of my head, I can kind of go and check out HTML5 elements. From what I know, it really doesn't make sense to put it in a span because a span is kind of an inline thing. I guess it's not really any of these guys here. I mean, just looking around, it doesn't really look like any of these guys fit. So maybe details, maybe? Details? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe not. It's pretty important. So I hate doing this, but let's go back to div. Because if we go to div, we can remove these guys here. And they will automatically be blocks, so we don't have to worry about that. So go in here, div. And I hate using divs. There's just so many divs everywhere. It makes it difficult to do things. So as much as possible, I try avoiding divs. Whoops. But sometimes there really isn't something better to use, so gotta use it. And again, I might be talking out of my butt here because, I only do front-end development to get things to work the way I want them to work. I don't do it super awesome stuff. 1em. Okay, is 1em good? No, still not. 0.9? 0.9. 0.9 kind of looks good. I think 0.9 looks good. It's also had padding to the top and bottom. So I'm going to use a shorthand. Instead of padding top, padding dash top, padding dash bottom. If I do 1em, that applies it all around the element. So that applies it to the left, bottom, and right. You can see the yellow. If I do 1em 0, it only applies it to the 1em is top and bottom, the 0 is left and right. And then if I do like 0, 0, this is the top, this is the top, right, bottom, left. So it goes kind of clockwise around in a circle. But I'm just going to add kind of the top and bottom here. That looks good to me. So sweet. The other thing I want to add is, and this might screw something up. Actually, let me go ahead and put the padding in and make that the 0.9 real quick before I forget all that stuff that we added. Since, again, I changed it inside of here instead of changing it up there. So let's go here. Padding 1em. Oh, hold on. Profile user mail count. In the wrong thing. Let's make this a 0.9. Okay. Let's make sure that looks decent. So the other thing is, this text actually looks a bit bigger than what I've got here, and that does look kind of small to me. So in the bold font size, I'm going to make that 1.2. And we'll play around with it, see if it looks right. Okay, that looks a bit better. And then I also want to change the line height for these guys. 1.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Let's make it 1.4. I feel like that's what it should be already. And I'm going to lower this to 0.5 padding on the top and bottom, because now that just feels like way too much space. Yeah, it's much more compact over here. In general, I feel like this is still a little bit more compact, but we'll be able to flesh that out kind of as time goes on. I'll be able to polish and feel, you know, maybe this is just a little too big or whatever. But that looks good, looking a lot better. So I'm gonna do my little test here and see what this might look like. Let's say Fisher gets really, really popular and he's got 10,000 followers. Cool, that looks great. The other thing that Twitter kind of does is, you know, they do this 10.1K. Whoops. 10.1 leaders of followers. Oh my goodness. So that's certainly something that I can worry about in the back end, in the presentation, how the Ruby presents it later down the road. But for my sake, you know, I'm good up to at least 100,000 followers or following people. But seeing as how I've only got like 55 users, I don't think that will be a problem yet. So let me, this looks good. I am missing this little bar here. Also, these guys are going to be links eventually. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to, you know, instead of using divs, I might use an an anchor tag, href, and I might give it, you know, a location. That might be something that I do later down the road. But for now, since I think the followers page looks like crap, I think, yeah, it's unstyled, that kind of stuff. I'm not even gonna show that. So we're gonna leave it like that. Let me put in this border here. But real quickly, because I used 50% width, and you know, I'm gonna add 1 pixel border. That's going to jump this stuff around. Border right, 1 pixel solid. Black. Why? Because it's now no longer 50% because of the way that the box model works for CSS. One way that I can change that is by changing the box sizing element to border box. So a lot of people, you just kind of set that blankly on every single element. I don't know what the best practice is. I don't know what browsers that does and doesn't work on. You know, what I do when I'm developing stuff for, like, if I have to for IE7, which yes, I still develop stuff for Internet Explorer 7. Instead of using that, I might just, you know, fudge it and make the width 49. And, you know, someone in IE, they're not going to tell the difference. I'm going to know that it's 49. It's going to piss me off. But really, honestly, like, you can't really tell. But because most of the people who are using my app, nobody's using IE7. Nobody's even using IE8, which is a miracle. I'm going to go ahead and use this property here. I'm going to apply that here to the followers, since this followers followers here is on the left. And I'm not going to make it black. I'm going to color it again, this kind of transparent color, since that's what I've been using all along. Maybe that should have been 0.2. I don't really remember, but let's take a look, refresh the page, and cool, that looks good to me. Yeah, let's make that 0.2. Pretty anal for something that I'm going to change later. I know. All right, so that's looking good. I'm going to take a quick 10-second break. Got some text messages I need to attend to. Trying to figure out what I'm going to do for dinner. It's 5 o'clock right now. Getting hungry. My wife's coming home soon. So I got to make sure I wrap this up soon. So let's take a look. So we built this thing. It looks pretty good. Actually, let me bring the PSD over here and overlay them. And you can see, matching it up, there's still something going off here. It still feels a little bit off, but that is a spacing issue. So this avatar seems to be even higher than this guy. So that pulled everything else up higher. So I might have to fix that later. But for now, I'm totally cool with it the way it is. That's something that I can worry about later. So let's see. Next, let's add this current goals type thing. This follow, unfollow button, where am I going to put that? I didn't even think about that. Oh my goodness. So here's another thing, is when I designed this layout, obviously I had in mind that there was going to be followers and followings, but I didn't think specifically about where I would place that button to follow someone or to unfollow someone. So this is something where I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, like, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Could I put it over here on the right side, shift this stuff around? Maybe I can fit it here. Maybe if I have the button right underneath the name, and maybe I make the meal share, the followers following, maybe make it 3 across here, make this a bit smaller, maybe make this whole thing just a little bit bigger. Who knows? That's something I'm going to have to play with. So for right now, because I want to ship this thing today and fix it later, what I'm going to do is this little graph piece here. I don't have a month view made yet. I don't have a graph view made yet. So really, this is the only thing that I have. So I'm probably going to end up putting the follow or unfollow button right there. And later, when I go back to the drawing board to kind of reimagine this thing, I'll keep that in mind, and I'll redesign the profile at that point. So for right now, what I'm going to do, just to kind of flesh this out a little bit more before I even add these details so you guys can kind of start to get a feel for it, I'm going to go through to another page. I'm going to go to the Explore page, which is where I actually have I have an unordered list. And let me show you what that looks like real quick. I have the meals laid out just like this, and that is exactly how I want to display them on here. And I think that the styles are flexible enough that I can literally just copy and paste and put it into kind of the profile view. So what I'm going to do is, here I've got the Explore list. Here's the HTML. I'm going to copy this stuff, even the pagination, and this is if there's no meals present. So I'll copy that. That might be a blank state that I'll worry about. And I will put that, let's see, so if this is the end of the user profile, and the user profile is what's got that little wrap, I'm going to call, actually, let me just paste it. I don't remember what I copied. What did I copy? UL. I might not even need to do anything. So I need to change a little bit of Ruby. For example, this is a local variable meals that was passed through. I need to make it an instance variable. So make sure, I could do this by doing a quick search find type thing. But I'm also, as I'm going down here making these replacements, I'm looking at the code and I'm thinking, what's going to work, what's not going to work. When I save this and refresh it and take a look at it, is this all going to look kind of okay the way I want it to? Am I going to have to change a bunch of stuff? And for the most part, though, I think this is all going to be okay. So kind of that was my double purpose. Oh, you know what? I'm looking here, a little bit of Ruby. I'm actually passing inside of this each loop, each with index, I'm passing the meal guy. So I really only had to turn this guy up here into an instance variable. These are all meal tags. So let me refresh the page. Let me go back to this guy's profile. Undefined local variable method meals. Okay, that was line 58. Going down here, 58. We'll pagine. Oops, I forgot the instance variable. Refresh again. Oh, nothing there. Total pages. What? Undefined method total pages. Okay. So this is we're getting a little bit into the back end here. But what's going on is I'm using this this little plugin, this gem called Will Paginate that allows me to add very simple pagination. So even though there might be like thousands of meals in here, you're not going to see them all at once. It's only going to load 12, and then you got this little button here that takes me to page 2 and so on. Well, that requires that in the controller, which tells the app what data to pull and when. Let me go pages controller. I actually have to call this page params and the per page. I have to call them both when I call the database and I tell it what I want. So let me go to the user controller, which is where there's this show action. And here I'm just getting the user.meals.order. Let me add the will paginate stuff there. And I think that will take care of this issue. Of course, with programming, you never really know until you click the button. Undefined local variable or method meals. Where was that? Okay, so this is probably another thing where we missed the instance variable, line 62. So let's go down here, line 62. Wait, no, line 62. Oh, that was the Explorer list. Line 62, yep. Let's put it in here. Kittens are awesome. Sweet. Okay, refresh. Oh my goodness, look at that. It worked. Balls on all over the place. Now this person's only got 5 meals, so I don't really know what the pagination is going to look like. I just kind of have some dummy data that gets imported each time that I kind of refresh the database. But for the most part, it looks okay, right? It's showing up. There's no margin here, so I'm going to want to fix that. But if I inspect the element real quickly, let me see if I inspect it. Where is it? Where is it? One of these guys. I actually have it based on a percentage width. So what's great about that is if I add some padding to this guy here, they will, whoops, nope, that didn't work. I was thinking that I could just add padding and then everything would work as expected. But maybe it's because box sizing is not border box yet. No, that didn't fix it. Oh, whoops, I was changing stuff out of the window. I apologize for that. I've got a nice 22-inch display, huge, not really, that I work on, and I'm only recording a small portion of that screen. So let me go back here, remove that padding. So it looks like I'm going to have to change just a few things on here in order to make this work. So I will get to that eventually. Right now, it is not a huge concern for me. As you can see, we now have some more details going on. So one thing that is kind of bothering me is here we've got this line break here, and it kind of breaks the flow and lets you focus on this area. So it kind of overhangs, but on our thing, it gets pushed all the way down here. The reason for that is because we don't have it positioned absolutely. We don't have this thing positioned absolutely. So let's do that. Let's get the parent container. We're going to position relative. And this we're going to position absolute, top 0, left 0. So look at that. I actually think we had this negative 2em. So that broke a lot of stuff. Why? Well, it's because this profile details now, it's nothing. It's a thin line, right? Now we could fix that by adding a height, right? Maybe not 400 pixels. 100 pixels? 100 pixels. Give a margin bottom of 4 ems or whatever it would take to kind of clear that. You see that's starting to kind of get around the look that we're going for. Let's make this like 150 pixels. Oops, let me show you this. If you use shift and go up and down, it goes in increments of 10. So I think 125 is good. This might be 6 EMs. That should be good. So we can do that, but since we're going to have other content in here, that should push it down. But until we get that content, I'm going to go ahead and copy that and put it in profile details. And man, I need a glass of water. Who thought that talking for an hour to yourself would drain your voice? Well, it does. You know what I just realized is some of the screencasts I watch, like Ryan Bates, Railscasts, when he pushes keyboard shortcuts, they show up somewhere, and I'm not doing that. So when I'm like moving stuff like this and I'm pushing keyboard shortcuts, you guys have no idea what I'm doing. I'll keep that in mind, and for the next video, I will try my best to show you that. But in the meantime, if you saw some magic going on and you're curious about the keyboard shortcut I used, just send me a tweet and reference the time, and I'll let you know. So anyways, as you can see, like we've made some pretty significant progress, and doing this stuff over here in the search bar, like it's not going to take too long. Making this stuff a little smaller for this specific page so that it fits within the bounds. That shouldn't be a problem either. This is just something that's going to take a little bit of time. And since I'm getting ready for dinner, I'm getting out of here. There's more stuff I need to get done. I'm going to leave you right now at 1 hour and 10 minutes with this stuff that we've kind of built together, because I think the important stuff I've shown you, and that important stuff is the process of going from some HTML to the CSS, to kind of playing around in the browser using the inspector, going back and forth, and also looking at Photoshop, getting a couple variables, going back here, moving back and forth. I talked to you about how I organize the classes, about the hierarchy. I showed you a few kind of tactics that I use, such as positioning things, displaying block. I talked about using semantic elements, talked about a lot of stuff in this video. So I'm going to put this up, and if you guys find that this is useful and you want more of it, I'll be more than happy to continue recording the stuff that I program, whether it's front-end development, whether you guys want to see some Photoshop action, you want to see how I'm building these things, maybe you want to see the sketches and kind of my progression, maybe you want to see actually let me go back real quick. I meant to show this to you earlier, but I've got, actually maybe it's over here. Yeah, I just want to show you, like, for one of my clients, this is what it started with, and I literally went through, boom, 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 boom. So many different revisions, moving around each time, talking with kind of the product owner until we kind of get to like this final state where it's nice and clean and feels good. This specific project, this dashboard is for a employee wellness program, and this revision going from dashboard 1, which actually this is dashboard version 3, this is dashboard version 2. Like, the leap from this thing all the way to this thing is a huge leap that took weeks to kind of iterate through, months actually. So if you want to see more of that stuff, like let me know. I'd love to go through it. If you really liked the front end development stuff, the CSS, the HTML, maybe a little bit of Ruby thrown into here, great, let me know. But if you really like the controller stuff and the gems that we use and more of the back end, the Rails and the Ruby stuff, let me know. I'd love to share with you guys. So hopefully this was useful. Once again, my name is Paul Medeiros. You can find me here on Twitter. Yes, this is what I look like over here with a little coffee mug. Right now, I'm working on Kale. I run a company called Enchant, doing design development. But please, I want to help you guys. I want to help you learn how to design. I want to help you learn how to code. I want to help you learn how to build things, build software. When I meet people, I tell them, they ask you what I do, and I'm like, well, I help people. I help people by building tools. I build software because software is a really human thing. You're really helping people do things and make their lives easier. So please, I'm here to help. Again, on Twitter @PVM, all the time. Hopefully you enjoy this, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.